Hi, and welcome to our Life as a UBC Engineering student event tonight. It's so great to see so many of you here to learn a little bit more about our programs and what student life is like as a student at UBC Engineering. My name's Erin, my pronouns are she, her, and I'm the Student Recruitment Officer for UBC Engineering. Now, both of our campuses are built on lands that have been home to Indigenous people for thousands of years. And I'd like to acknowledge the land that UBC has built its Vancouver campus on, which we work, learn, connect, and innovate, is the unceded ancestral and traditional territory of the Musqueam peoples. Our Okanagan campus is situated in the territory of the Syilx Okanagan Nation and their peoples. And I'd also like to recognize that you're joining us today from many places near and far, and to acknowledge the traditional owners and caretakers of those lands that you may be on right now. So, a few notes to go over before we dive into today's session. There are a few functions to help customize your experience with us today. So, if you're experiencing any audio or video issues, you can always um, feel free to log out and log back in. You won't have trouble getting back in if you need to. And then we are recording the session today. So if there is any issues that you're having, you will receive a recorded or a link to the recording, I should say, in a couple days' time. So just keep an eye on your email. We'll post the recording to YouTube. This session is really designed for you, so please feel free to submit your questions today through the Q&A box. So if you look at the bottom of your screen, if you don't see the little kind of chat with a Q&A feature on it, then you can also click that More button, and that might be what opens the Q&A for you. We do ask that you only submit your question once and that you use the upvote feature or the thumbs up on those questions so that we can try and get through as many questions as possible and try and get through the most popular questions first. So please feel free to ask any of your questions there. I know that the application deadline is coming up, so if you do have any questions about the application, we will save some time towards the end of the presentation, probably just after 6 or so. We'll stay on a little bit longer and then can help answer any of your questions about the application. But during this event, we're really going to focus on the questions for our student panelists and about life as a student. There are also lots of links available in the resources tab, which you can access at the bottom of your screen. So when clicking the link, it will notify you that you're leaving Zoom. It's not going to take you out of this session. It's just going to open your browser and link you to that page. So feel free to open as many of the links as you'd like. You can save them for later, or you can access them throughout the presentation. Closed captioning is enabled, so you can turn that on by clicking on the closed captioning button at the bottom of your screen. And then, as I mentioned, if you're not able to stay the entire time, we will be posting the recording on the YouTube channel. All right, so I have several people with me here today. Again, my name is Erin. I have my colleague Marie, who will be joining to to present some of the slides as well as ask some questions to our panelists. So you'll see her shortly. We also have some students joining us today, Sienna, McKenna, and Piyush, who will be introducing themselves a little bit later. So UBC Engineering is one of Canada's best engineering schools, which is consistently reflected in the World University Rankings. If you choose to join us at UBC, you'll be joining a university which is globally recognized for its excellence in teaching and research, as well as its global impact. World University Rankings, like the Times Higher Education, ranks UBC as #2 in Canada overall and within the top 50 universities or top 5% of all universities in the world. We're also #1 in Canada for international outlook. When we look at UBC Engineering specifically, for the last few years, Maclean's has ranked UBC Engineering as the #2 engineering program in Canada based on program and research reputation. We're also home to the largest co-op program in Western Canada, where we have fantastic employer partnerships to really set you up for success. So overall, if you join us at UBC, you will be joining one of the top ranked universities in the world. And I alluded to this already, but there's two ways to get an engineering degree from UBC. You can study at our Okanagan campus in Kelowna or the Vancouver campus, which is on the west side of Vancouver. While the feel of each campus will be quite different, Both campuses' engineering programs are equally prestigious and accredited, where you'll be learning and working with professors who are leaders in their fields. Now, no matter which campus you start at, you'll start in what we call the foundational first year to learn about the courses that are the foundation of your degree. So that's going to include engineering design, chemistry, physics, math, and English before continuing on into your program and completing your degree at that campus. Throughout your first year, you'll have the opportunity to learn more about each of the engineering programs that we offer at your campus. And you can do so by attending events, chatting with senior engineering students or professors. But there's lots of different ways to really get a solid understanding of the options available to you and a much better sense of which program will be best aligned with your interests and aptitude. At both campuses, students will select their program of study at the end of their first year through a process called second year placement. The UBC Okanagan campus currently has 5 engineering programs, and at the UBC Okanagan campus, engineering students are guaranteed placement in their first choice engineering program, which you'll select from at the end of first year. The programs currently accepting new students include civil, computer, electrical, and mechanical engineering. At the UBC Vancouver campus, there are 14 engineering disciplines for students to choose from. And at the Vancouver campus, placement into these programs at the end of first year is a competitive process. Some programs may have some additional requirements, such as an interview or specific course prerequisites. But again, overall, you'll get a lot more information about the placement process and those requirements throughout your first year, and the chance to meet those upper year students and professors as well. Some of our top applicants may also be offered guaranteed placement to one of our 13 undergraduate programs. That's with the exception of engineering physics. So if you are applying this year and you are one of the top applicants, that may be something that you have to look forward to as well. And then I do just want to mention that for students interested in biomedical engineering, there's also the pre-biomedical timetable that allows you to specialize your courses a little further in first year, which then will help ensure your placement into biomedical engineering for second year. So lots of different options. And speaking of options, we're going to kind of go through some of the different ways that you can actually customize your degree, which is really what we're here to talk about tonight. What that student experience is going to be like and how you can kind of customize and make your degree your own. So one of the best things about pursuing a university degree is that ability to customize it. You get to kind of pick and choose a few different things. And while the engineering program and the curriculum is quite set in terms of requirements, you still have a lot of choice in how you can kind of make it your own. So from the very start, you'll be exposed to hands-on design projects where you work in teams with other first-year students, and then you'll continue to have courses year after year that continue to build on those project-based team learning experiences, culminating in your final year with your capstone design project, where you and your peers work with industry partners to solve real-life problems. Some capstone projects have actually become startup companies or have allowed students to secure jobs right upon graduation. We also have, if you're interested in getting involved in research, a lot of different ways to pursue research, whether that's in a paid position to do research, whether that is participating in clubs like the Undergraduate Research Organization that helps pair students with areas of research they're interested in, and then presenting at the giant research conference that we have where thousands of students will present their research every year. There's tons of different ways to get involved in research at both of our campuses. So that's really exciting if that's something you're looking forward to. Later on in your degree, you can also customize your studies by choosing to pursue a minor, which is a secondary area of study. This is not a requirement, but it will allow you to have a kind of secondary area of focus. Now, I've listed some of those ways that you can kind of customize your degree in terms of academics. So at the Vancouver campus, we have the minor in arts, science, honors math, commerce, and entrepreneurship. You can also do a dual degree in arts and engineering. Now, the earliest that you would apply into any of these things for the dual degree would be during your first year. Whereas the minors are going to be usually not actually applying until your second or third year of studies. We also have that pre-biomedical engineering timetable that I've mentioned. So once you are admitted to the Vancouver campus for first year, you will find out a little bit more information about that pre-biomedical engineering timetable. Now, we also have some minors in dual degrees available at the Okanagan campus. So, at the Okanagan campus, you can choose to do a minor in arts, computer science, or management. And then we also have the dual degree in engineering and the master's of management, which is another kind of cool program if you're really interested in that sort of business side of things as well. At the Okanagan campus, there's also some additional concentrations within the programs that students can pursue, like aerospace, biomedical, environmental, mechatronics, or resilient infrastructure management. So within those engineering programs, you can then further specialize at the Okanagan campus as well. So I'm going to pass it over to Marie, who is going to present about some additional ways to really customize your degree. And then when she is done, we're going to bring our student panel on board.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Erin. So, hi everyone. I'm Marie Reed, Project Manager, Programs and Strategy for the School of Engineering at the UBC Okanagan campus. Like Erin mentioned, I get to dive right in and continue to talk about all the fun ways you can customize your degree. So, on top of what Erin already shared with you, another way to customize your degree is to explore the world and go on exchange through UBC's Go Global program or the Coordinated International Exchange Program, also known as CIE. CIE is a Go Global program customized for our engineering students. There are 17 partner institutions across the world in Asia, Australia, and Europe where you can take pre-mapped engineering-related courses at those institutions. Partners include ETH Zurich, National University of Singapore, and the University of Melbourne, just to name a few. We've also included a link in our resources tab for you to learn more if you want to see how you can travel the world as part of your degree. Another fun fact for this is students who are interested in the co-op program, you can also replace one of the co-op work terms with a CAE term as another way to customize your degree. So our co-op program provides students with over 16 months of paid full-time work experience. It doesn't matter which campus you study at, all engineering students have access to the same co-op opportunities on the same job board. Students apply to co-op at the beginning of their second or third year of study. And as students are working full-time during their co-op work terms, participating in co-op will add 1 year onto your total degree time. Please note participating in co-op is optional and you have your entire first year to learn more about this program. Just to give you a little bit more details on the screen, you're going to see some stats here from co-op from last year. Some of our top employers included Tech Resources, Metro Vancouver, and Suncor Energy. Some of our students were able to work internationally across 23 different countries, and over 3,000 work terms were secured by our engineering co-op students. So lots of great opportunities to get that work experience. Like Erin mentioned, we have some current students who are joining us today, and some of them have participated in co-ops. They're good. They're going to share their experience with you as well. So there are many opportunities for engineering students to apply the knowledge they learn in classes and gain professional development skills. Next, we would like to show you some sample timetables from both of our campuses so you can start to envision what it is like to be a UBC engineering student. So what's shown on this slide is a sample term two timetable. So term two is from January to April at UBC, and this timetable is for a first-year engineering student at the UBC Okanagan campus. Engineering students at the UBC Okanagan campus who are following the 4-year degree plan will register for 6 courses per term for a total of 12 courses during their first year. This image shows the lectures, labs, and tutorials for the 6 courses that the student has in term 2, which is what they would be in right now. A lecture is basically where students are going to learn their course content. These are typically 3 hours per week. A lab provides that hands-on application of the knowledge that you're learning in class, and this can be an hour to 2 hours per week, depending on the course. And a discussion or tutorial is really an opportunity for continued learning of the course content through sample questions, quizzes, or project work, and they can range from 1 to 2 hours per week, depending on the course. And just to clarify, not all courses have labs and not all courses have a discussion or tutorial. Some courses may just have a lecture, And some courses may have a lecture, lab, and tutorial. These are things that you're going to learn way more about when you are registering for courses, not something you have to worry about now. But it's just nice to sort of know the different wording around that in case you hear that later or when you're chatting with current students and they're talking about their schedule. So students can expect to study basically the same amount of hours per course as the lecture time that they're taking in that course. So if you have 6 courses with 3 hours of lecture time for each course, you can expect about 18 hours of study time or time you're going to be doing assignments or project outside of class. This can vary throughout the term depending on project deadlines and exams, but that's a good starting point to basically plan out your week between your in-class and out-of-class study time. So as I mentioned earlier, this is a sample schedule. So it's not the same schedule for all of our first year engineering students at UBC Okanagan. Students register for their lectures, tutorials, and labs sections. So depending on the options for that year, you could try to schedule more morning or evening classes depending on what works best for you, the course times available, and the space available at the time of registration. So this is just one sample schedule. So we also wanted to show a sample term two schedule, which again is January to April for a first year engineering student at the UBC Vancouver campus. So this is an example of it here. Engineering students at the UBC Vancouver campus take 13 courses throughout their first year. In this example, the student would have taken 7 courses in term one, which is not shown on this slide, and then 6 courses in term two, which is the sample timetable that you're seeing here. As discussed previously, students have lectures for each course, with some courses also having labs or discussions. As Aaron mentioned as well, engineering students at both campuses take a foundational first year. So no matter which campus you choose, the courses shown here are basically covering all the foundation. So chemistry, physics, math, English, and engineering design. The other thing I wanted to mention is in both of these schedules, there are times throughout the day for students to take a break, work on assignments, or collaborate with study groups. Students also can plan their activities for outside of class, such as going to the gym, working, hanging out with friends, or even joining a design team. And that's what I'm going to dive into next, is some of these other things that you can do to fill that time when you're not in class and you're not studying, because there's a lot of amazing ways you can build your professional network and gain other skills throughout your degree. Awesome. So students can connect with industry professionals and alumni through our engineering mentorship program and industry nights. These programs and events are a great way to build your networking skills, learn more about different industries, and build transferable skills. These opportunities are open to engineering students at all year levels, so students can join right from their first year if they would like. We also have engineering undergraduate societies in Vancouver and Okanagan, and our EIDEAs, which is Engineering Inclusivity, Diversity, Equity Advancement for Student Clubs for members of the 2SL LGBTQIA+ community, women, Black, Indigenous, and Chinese students. Engineering design teams and clubs are also a great way to find your community while gaining hands-on experience applying the theory you learn in class. So there are many exciting engineering design teams, clubs, and associations at the UBC Okanagan campus that allow you to expand your network, find your community, and develop expertise in your field of study. A lot of the logos are shown here on this slide, but a few examples include the UBCO Aerospace Design Team, which designs, builds, and launches UAVs, fixed-wing aircrafts, and rockets, or the Okanagan Marine Robotics Design Team, who design and build autonomous underwater vehicles. At the UBC Vancouver campus, there are over 30 teams focusing on many different aspects of engineering. As you can clearly see on this screen, there's lots of different categories that the design teams can fall under. Some examples include building Formula One style race cars, both electric and non-electric, building soccer playing robots and actually getting to play soccer with them, build and design net zero sustainable buildings, and build and launch rockets and drones. So there's so many different design teams that you could explore and join that would match your area of interest, your passion, and you can really apply the knowledge you're learning in class in a really fun way. And the great thing also is many employers are specifically looking to hire students who have design team experience, as it means that you have worked on a multidisciplinary team, you've been applying your engineering knowledge, and you're also building transferable skills such as communication and leadership. So, woof, Aaron and I went through a lot of stuff today. We gave you a lot of information in a very short period of time. Now we get the pleasure of inviting three of our current engineering students to join us on stage here. So I'll just give them a minute here to join us. Perfect. Welcome. Hi, Sienna. Hi, Payush. Awesome. Great. Perfect. I see McKenna as well. That's great. So thank
Hi.
you, Sienna, Payush, and McKenna for being here today to share your student experiences. We're going to start off with some introductions first before we jump right into those panel questions. Sienna, we're going to start with you for the introductions, and we're going to move over to Payush and then to McKenna. So I'm going to pass it over to Sienna here first to start us off for the introductions. Over to you, Sienna.
Awesome, thank you. My name is Sienna. I'm studying on UBC's Okanagan campus here in Kelowna. I am in my fifth and final year of mechanical engineering with biomedical concentration, which means I'm graduating at the end of the semester, which is super exciting and scary, and I can't believe how fast it goes by. First year, I swear, it was like yesterday or last week or something. It definitely goes by fast, but you'll have the time of your life here at UBC. I know I definitely have. I'm originally from Tsawwassen, which is about, I'd say, an hour and a half away from Vancouver, traffic depending. Sometimes it's a lot longer. For those of you who don't know where Tsawwassen is, it's typically known as like a ferry terminal town. It's the ferry terminal that takes you over to Victoria, and we have a really big mall as well called Tsawwassen Mills. So that might help you understand it a little bit more. I don't know if anyone on this call right now would be from South Delta Secondary School, but that's where I went to high school. I also, throughout my entire degree, played on the UBCO women's soccer team, which was an amazing experience. It was really nice to be able to continue playing the sport I loved while studying something I was really interested in. And it also gave me a really good kind of work-life balance. I guess you'd call it like study life balance. And yeah, I've really made the most of my time throughout my time here at UBC. I've done co-op, I've done undergraduate research, I did a global seminar, I did the mentorship program. I'm currently doing a work learn position with Marie, and I've also been able to fit in lots of social time as well. So don't think that taking on extracurriculars takes away from your social experience here at UBC either. I'll talk a little bit more about these each a little bit later, but I'll hand it over to Payush. Thank you.
Hey everyone, my name's Piyush. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm in the biomedical engineering program at the UBC Vancouver campus, and I'll be graduating in 2027, so I got another year left. I graduated high school from Semiahmoo Secondary in White Rock, if anyone's out there, in 2020. And yeah, I've been having a blast here so far. Some highlights from my undergraduate journey are my past co-ops. I've done four. I'm currently in my fifth one right now, completing a minor in data science. I've been a part of a design team, and I got to go on an exchange term for a year. Fun fact about me, love riding motorcycles. So if you're on UBC Vancouver campus, you'll likely see me riding around as long as there isn't snow on the ground. But yeah, see some really cool questions already. So really excited to talk about it. But I can pass it off to McKenna for now.
All right, thanks, guys. Hi, my name is McKenna. I am in my fourth year of electrical engineering at UBC Okanagan, which is in Kelowna. I am currently on a co-op placement, so I will graduate in May of 2027, which is honestly kind of terrifying that I will be a real adult after that. Some highlights, obviously, I'm currently on month 9 of 16 of my two co-op terms. I'm currently placed in Port Moody, British Columbia, which is about 45 minutes from downtown Vancouver. And then my last co-op was in Kelowna, which was pretty awesome as well. I've been on two different design teams, one within the School of Engineering and one outside the School of Engineering, which was definitely a very unique experience. And I have also participated in research. I've done biotechnology research, and I've also done electrical engineering research, including working in a clean room, which is a pretty awesome experience as an undergrad. Um, so obviously, I've done a lot, but I will say, like, during my free time, I do have free time. I hang out with friends, I go hiking, I go swimming, I play tennis. I used to play tennis competitively, but I don't anymore since there isn't a varsity women's tennis team at UBC, unfortunately. Um, but there's a tennis club who gets together sometimes, and they're super great. I highly recommend doing sports as a way to meet friends since it's a common interest and it's a great way to stay active, which is very, very important during university. And I also like to draw and write. So, yeah, that's a little bit about me. And yeah, thanks, guys.
Perfect. So thank you so much for giving those nice introductions so we could all learn a little bit about you. We're going to move on to a few of our prepared panel questions now. So the first question I have is for Sienna and McKenna. So can you please tell us a bit about how was your transition from high school to university? And did you feel prepared to balance your co course load and your extracurriculars? I know you guys have alluded to this both a little bit. Maybe we can start with Sienna and then and then move to McKenna for that question.
Yeah, I would say the transition from high school to university is obviously quite daunting. I feel like there's this fear that kind of surrounds, especially going into engineering, because people say, oh my goodness, it's really hard. You have a lot of work, like it's nonstop. But it doesn't necessarily have to feel that way. I know I didn't necessarily feel that way. It definitely was a level up from high school, but it wasn't that huge jump that people kind of feared me into thinking about. Some things that really helped me kind of manage that transition was one from the academic side. I took a lot of AP courses in high school. I do recommend if they're available at your high school, make use of them. Even if you don't plan to use AP credits to skip courses, I know that it's transferable for like a calculus course, and I believe depending on what you're going into, maybe you could use English and chemistry or biology one as well, to take away some of the courses that you have to take in university, use them as equivalents. But just getting used to the workload that AP courses introduce and knowing some of the topics that were being covered in my first year university courses ahead of time really helps me keep on top of things. So, from an academic perspective, that's something I definitely recommend if it's available to you. I also got really comfortable using Google Calendar and Google Tasks while I was in high school. It was something that was recommended to me by one of my cousins, and I was really glad that she recommended that because it'll be your best friend in university in terms of keeping on top of things. And then in terms of balancing extracurriculars and social and academics, something that I noticed was I was really involved in a lot of different high-level sports in high school. And so with high-level sports comes a really large time commitment. And so I found that three really high level sports in high school was almost the equivalent of my social life and also playing varsity athletics. So the time commitment of those two things, transitioning from high school to university, was pretty similar and made things relatively seamless for me in terms of just balancing all those different components. But yeah, to summarize, do AP courses if they have them available to you and get used to organizing your schedule. I'll hand it over to McKenna.
Awesome. Thanks, Sienna. I also can echo taking AP courses. I'm actually American. I grew up in California and I immigrated to Canada from Texas. So if there's any Americans out there who are interested in moving to Canada, I'm more than welcome to answer any of your questions. It definitely is a bit of a big change coming from the US AP system to the Canadian university system. I will say that it was a step up in work level, obviously, between university and high school. I took a lot of AP courses, but also I took city college courses through dual enrollment. And I found that to be the closest equivalent to university. And I found that really prepared me as well. Because when you're in dual enrollment, you are in a college. You are taking with a professor, you're taking these high level exams, these labs and stuff, and you're working with a variety of people. So one of the things about university that's super great, especially at UBC, is you're going to meet people from all over the place, not just Vancouver and Kelowna, but from all over Canada and all over the world. And it really helps me work with different people from different backgrounds as well, which is incredibly important as you continue to mature and grow, especially if you're going to enter engineering. I also will say, like, it definitely took me some time to learn how to adjust to university coursework and extracurriculars. And I think that's totally okay. I think it's okay to give yourself a little bit of a trial run to figure it out. I also highly recommend Google Calendar or Apple Calendar to track all of your assignments because Canvas will show them all, but then like maybe you miss a notification or whatever. And I also will say, like, definitely ask for help when you need it. If you find yourself struggling or falling behind, that's okay. We have all been through first year engineering. We've all taken the courses. Maybe some of us understood it better than others. Do not be afraid to talk to your classmates or talk to your professors and TAs. They really do want to see you succeed, as do all of us here. So that would be my advice on the transition between high school and university.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Santa and McKenna. It's really helpful to get your advice and your perception of that transition because I know a lot of students here today are about to embark on that. So it's nice to get those tips in advance so they can prepare as they lead into that. Payush, the next question is for you. You transferred to UBC Engineering. Can you tell us a bit about how you were able to still make connections and find your community coming in as a second year student?
Yeah, so my transfer was with the UBC Engineering Transfer Program, where I went to a partner school for my first year, and then I came to UBC Vancouver for my second year. And yeah, that was my biggest concern when I was transferring in as well, that oh, everyone's gonna be having friends and I'll be like new to the group and to my classes. Um, and like it can certainly feel that way. But I don't think it was an issue past the first 2 weeks. So engineering operates in cohorts. So most of the people in our specializations will have the exact same classes. So you'll be working with the same faces and the same groups of people throughout your initial phase of your degree, at least. And honestly, as long as you show up to class, you're going to be interacting with them and you're going to be like making relationships with them. So that's a great way to like start making a social group and kind of start working with people constantly and just make inroads into existing like groups. So that's like the academic aspect of it. Outside of classes, I made a point of getting involved early, especially through design teams, clubs, and social events. So UBC Recreation runs a bunch of social events that are open to everyone on campus. They are the longboat, storm the wall, but also just intramural sports and a bunch of fitness classes at our new fitness facility. Um, and then there's the Engineering Undergraduate Society, which is a undergraduate club for all engineering students, regardless of specialization. And they throw parties every month, and yeah, everyone collaborates. There's tutoring, there's mentoring. So getting involved in these spaces really helped me uh, kind of make my own community at UBC Vancouver. And yeah, it's been fine since then.
Thank you so much. I know finding your community, finding friends when you arrive is like a very hot topic for first year, entering first year or second year. So thank you so much for sharing some of the great events students can get involved with and how they can find their community when they arrive. It really leads us into Payush, the next question, which is about design teams and engineering clubs. McKenna and Piyush, can you please share a little bit about one of the teams or clubs you have been a part of and how it has helped shape your university experience so far. So maybe let's start with McKenna for this one and then move to Piyush.
So I was on a design team my first year called iGEM, which was a part of the Faculty of Sciences. I chose to not go down that path, so I decided not to continue pursuing that design team. However, I am currently a part of the concrete toboggan team on the Okanagan campus, who a couple of years ago actually won the whole competition, which was pretty cool to see. I joined just this year, so I got to do a lot of hands-on work. I joined partially because I realized there was a large gap in my knowledge base during co-op in civil and mechanical engineering. As electrical engineers, you do really specialize on electronics and electrical engineering, obviously. But when I was in industry, I realized that this other knowledge of other industries was going to be very vital. So joining a team like that helps me kind of fill that gap. Plus, it's kind of fun pouring concrete. I don't know. I enjoyed it. And T-Bog really has a fun, loving, welcoming culture to it. The joke is that we're all best friends, which I don't know, sounds a little interesting, but everyone has been so welcoming to me and really just wants me to learn, which is really one of the great parts about it. There's also a large art component to Concrete Toboggan where we have to design our crate that we ship it in and also design the toboggan and paint it. And we also make patches. So getting to work on that and seeing my hobbies be um, shown around and getting to see my art like actually in the public was pretty cool for the first time. But yeah, so we'll be going to London, Ontario next month to race the toboggan. And if you're in town, you can come and see all the toboggans from all around Canada and sometimes the United States as well. Schools will join, and you can learn about our design processes and our theme, which is Star Wars this year. So yeah, overall super fun time.
Yeah, I guess I'll jump in. Yeah, so the design team I was part of was with UBC iGEM for 4 years. I started off as a general member, and then by the fourth year, I was the director slash captain of it. So this team was a synthetic biology engineering design team on the UBC Vancouver campus. And essentially what the team did was we engineered bacteria to make it do cool stuff like glow in the dark or we engineered wheat in one year to like make it heat tolerant. And last year we engineered bacteria that could take soil, like Martian soil, and turn it into bricks. So that was last year's project. Um, so we had this annual competition in Paris, and the team would represent UBC annually. And yeah, it was a blast. We got to work at the workshops at UBC, the maker spaces as we call them. Um, and me personally, over the 4 years, I got to develop a lot of my technical skills and make myself employable and competitive for co-op positions, which in turn make me employable and competitive for after I graduate. Um, yeah, and like fun fact, like during one of these projects in my second year, I collaborated with a researcher from BC Cancer, and yeah, we worked really well. And then she came back and she hired me as a co-op, like an intern, over the summer term. So I think design teams for me was like a very good way to get competitive and get develop some skills for co-ops. And yeah, it was great. Socially, it was great too. It's a really good place to meet like-minded people that are roughly having the same interests or roughly want to develop the same skills, and then you can collaborate with them to work on techniques and just work on connections.
Thank you both. It's so nice to just hear about what the clubs or and design teams are doing. There's always new things and new challenges for you to explore. So thank you so much. We are getting a lot of questions coming into the Q&A, so I'm just going to ask one more of our panel questions, and then we're going to shift into the questions that everyone is submitting. So the last panel question for right now is about co-op for Sienna and McKenna. So, can you both tell us about some of the work terms that you have completed so far as part of the Applied Science Co-op program? And let's start with Sienna for this one and then move to McKenna.
Co-op has easily been the highlight of my time at UBC. It's definitely helped me transition my skills that you learn in lectures and some of the topics that they cover to, oh, now I see how this is actually being used in industry and gaining that experience and almost confidence in your abilities as you move towards graduation. I've done three different co-ops and they've all been 4 months each. So I'll be graduating with 12 months of work experience. So I'm not technically completing the co-op program, which would be 16 months, but it doesn't make your work experiences any less valuable. My first co-op was at BC Children's Hospital in the Motion Lab. Essentially, what they do, I'm hoping this resonates with some of you. I always use this example, is how they make video games with like hockey players. They put them in those green suits and they have all these like little bulbs on them so they can kind of record the way that they move so that when you're playing the video game, you can actually have the player. It's essentially using that exact same technology in a clinical space. And so we tend to use it for kids with movement, different movement abilities, and help inform different surgical procedures or future rehab techniques that are going to be used on them to help them move better. And so it was a really, really amazing experience. And then that took me to my next co-op term. I returned to school for 4 months, and then I went and joined the team at Interior Health in their biomedical engineering department. I did something called clinical engineering, which was related to medical devices, but it wasn't on the side of creating the medical devices. It was like once they're actually being used in clinics and in hospitals, what happens then? The work that's being done around risk management, procurement, and management of all these different medical devices was the realm that I was working in. And it was super interesting and is something I'd like to do once I graduate. And then that flowed into my last co-op term that I did this last summer with the BC Ministry of Health. And I got to kind of see how healthcare administration in British Columbia works. So I worked on their alternative payments program team, and I was helping design competitive contracts for physicians to go work in rural areas or be something we call a hospitalist, so that you have more family physicians working in hospitals to see patients as well. And so it was a really cool experience. You're probably wondering how that connects to engineering. I did use a lot of engineering skills to help do that work, a lot of project management related things. But my co-ops were absolutely phenomenal. The teams you work with are phenomenal. It really helps take away that daunting component of, oh, I've just been in school for 4 or 5 years and now I'm trying to transition into the workforce. It makes you feel really confident in yourself and your skills and your abilities. And yeah, highly recommend co-op. Can't say enough good things about it. I'll let McKenna talk about her experiences.
It sounds really cool, Sienna. I'm not gonna lie. My experience has been very different as an electrical engineer. So I'm currently on month 9, so I've completed 2 of 4 4-month work terms, so I'll graduate with 16 months of experience. My first 2 months were at a quote unquote MEP firm, which is basically building design. So everything from the pipes to your distribution system to your interior design to your lighting is all designed by engineers. So I did that in Kelowna. It is really cool going into a building that you designed and seeing your design in real life. I will say that was definitely a highlight. Was an office I worked on was finished during my co-op term, and I got to go on site and take a look around and see it. Um, I learned a ton of new technical skills. I learned Revit and AutoCAD, which were not taught as part of my degree, so that was really cool. Getting to learn some more transferable skills. And it was also really nice staying in the Okanagan. The Okanagan is beautiful, especially in the summer, and I happen to be right on the lake, so can't really complain there. I will say that another pro of co-op is you do get to explore new areas, and I would recommend that. Which leads me into my second co-op term, which is another 8 months at another company. I am currently in the Vancouver area working at Port Moody, and what I mean by that is I am working for the port, so I am working under the electrical and automation systems. So I basically make sure when things break that they get fixed. And also I make sure that our control system is up and running. So I also will be helping design it, which is really cool since that was something I had learned in school a little bit about something called PLCs. If you have any interest in automation or manufacturing, I would highly recommend learning how to program them. And you can at UBC. There's 2 courses on it actually. And so seeing it in an industry and seeing it in real life and being able to apply what you learn in the classroom is really cool. And seeing it work in real life is also really cool, I will say. I feel like co-op has taught me a lot of new technical skills, but has also taught me how to work in an office, which is very different than my past job experiences. My past job experiences were in labs and on an ambulance. So I will say, like, the skills aren't just technical. You really do learn a lot about yourself and how to work and how to think like an engineer as well. And all of that will be so helpful in the long run.
Thank you so much for both of you sharing your very different co-op experiences. You can see there is a wide variety of jobs that students can apply to related to their field, and it does build a lot of those great skills. So thank you both for just shining lights onto a few of those opportunities. So now we're going to move into some of the questions that everyone who is here with us today has been asking. So I'm just going to start with the most top voted question here. And it is, does UBC Engineering recommend a specific laptop for students to use in first year? And do students tend to use their laptop in class for notes, work, or labs? So I'm wondering if one or two of you wanted to share your experience about technology and what works well for you when you're taking notes and doing your assignments.
Yeah, I can talk about it a little bit. Because I think I had a very similar experience to a lot of students that come into engineering with an Apple laptop. I do have a MacBook, and I would say if you're looking to purchase a new laptop, don't necessarily get a MacBook just because for some of the programs that you use, especially in your first like foundational year, we take a CAD course and it was really challenging to use that with my MacBook. I actually went and bought a computer from Costco that was a Windows and returned it at the end of that term. And so I kind of had to do a strange workaround to make the software work on my MacBook. That being said, from there on out, I've had no issues with my MacBook. So if you're like, I already have a MacBook and I can't purchase another computer, you'll be okay. You will 100% get by. There's also lots of computers on campus that you can use if software does not work on your personal computer. In terms of taking notes in class, I would say it really depends on what type of course you're in. For all like the math related courses where you're writing equations constantly, I've used my iPad for all of them. It's definitely the easiest. Typing equations is not fun. I don't recommend it. But that being said, I'm taking law and ethics right now, and that's definitely a course that I use my laptop in to type notes because it's more word heavy. So hopefully that helps. I'm not sure if Payush or McKenna have a different experience they'd like to share.
I personally use a Dell XPS, which is pretty popular. They last for quite a while. So I was talking to one of the EITs at my last co-op, and he said that his lasted for like a good 5, 6 years. So it should last your whole degree. They're also super lightweight, which is really nice. And I never had any problems running SolidWorks is the program that you use in first year at UBCO. Um, However, unfortunately, Mac OS does have a lot of problems running other CAD softwares from what I've heard. It's a bummer. If you already have a Mac laptop, I wouldn't recommend going out and getting a new one. They are expensive and that's not really necessary. I started university taking notes on pen and paper because I found that helps me remember stuff more. However, I am now an iPad kid. I caved in late second year and bought an iPad. It's really nice, especially in electrical, since we take a lot of circuit courses and a lot of professors will just have slides. And so they'll just have like a slide with the circuit, and it's kind of nice just to have that on an iPad and not having to print out pages and pages of notes or having to just constantly draw stuff out. That being said, I have lots of friends who like pen and paper, so it really doesn't matter. It's just a personal preference thing, really.
Awesome. There's a few questions about design teams. So Piyush, I'm gonna direct this towards you. Some of the questions are for specific teams, but just to answer generally, there's a few questions kind of wondering, how competitive is it to join a team? How much time would they expect to, commit to that team? And is it something that a first year student could manage? So maybe kind of generally speaking, what would your thoughts be on that?
Yeah, so at UBC Vancouver, there's a diversity of design teams. So that means there's also a diversity of commitments and the competitiveness. Some teams are competitive, so it is good if you have some background skills that you can develop in high school. Skills like just robotics, soldering, really just being passionate about, honestly, they look for passion within first years more than skill, right? So if you, for example, want to be part of Formula, which I think is one of the most competitive teams at UBC Vancouver, probably a good idea to be passionate about Formula racing and cars and stuff in general. But I think for first years, what matters most is the why do you want to be a part of the team more than what do you know? That's how most of the design teams I know of operated for first year hires. In terms of workload, it is not too bad. So, these are student-led design teams. Faculty and professors support them and they give technical advice and like funding. but the decisions and the organization is entirely run, managed, and executed by students, which means everyone knows that, you have homework and you have assignments and you have exams. So they're very accommodating with.
Oh,
No,
Oh,
we just lost you at the end there, but I think we kind of got to the end of Piyush's answer. So, we do have quite a few questions about co-op. Again, they're kind of all similar. So, I'm just trying to kind of pull some of them together. So, questions about um, one, is it possible? I'm going to kind of run through some answers quickly and then
mhm.
probably get McKenna, you to elaborate from your
Yeah.
student experience as well. So, question quickly about, is it possible to do co-op and study abroad? Yes, the co-op program is the same program across the Vancouver and Okanagan campus, and you can actually use one of your co-op work terms towards doing study abroad to still get credit for co-op. So, if you're doing the CIE, the Coordinated International Experience Program, one of those that term can go towards one of your co-op terms to fulfill that to still get the co-op designation. So that's a really great opportunity. There's also some questions about kind of like how many people who apply to co-op actually get a job. What if you're not able to find a job in the co-op program? What happens? So a few kind of questions about that. And so just to kind of speak from kind of an advising perspective, of we do kind of control it. We know how many co-op jobs are going out every year and things like that. And so we are working to make sure that students should be able to find a job, hopefully. But what you're going to do is work with your co-op advisor. If for whatever reason you're not able to find a job in the term that you are supposed to be doing your first work term, then you'll work with your advisor to look at maybe rescheduling that work term and doing courses instead or taking a break if it's summer or something like that. So you'll work with your advisor. For the most part, most of the students in the co-op program are going to get placement. You still need to interview and have your resume and things like that. So if there are issues that you're not getting interview offers or they're not hiring or something like that, your co-op advisor can also work through that with you to make sure that your resume is going to suit you well and that you are doing well in the interviews. Um, McKenna, from your experience and having done co-op, do you, so question was kind of about the support provided, those assignments that you have to do to kind of ensure that
Yeah.
you are, going through the whole process properly. Is there anything that you kind of want to add to that from your experience of the difficulty or of interviewing and finding jobs and things like that, or the support from any of the advisors?
I would say so. I was fairly successful during both my co-op job searches. My first co-op job search, I had about a 12% interview rate. And then this most recent co-op search, I had a 22% interview rate, which is fairly high. And I found that the thing that was getting me hired was having employable skills. So that was technical skills. So that for me, that was knowing AutoCAD, knowing Revit, and PLC programming. If you know that you want to go into a certain industry, so for example, a lot of my friends in electrical engineering really want to go and make chips, which is cool. Not what I'm interested in, but they really like that. I would highly recommend looking and seeing what software is used and what skills are applicable to those jobs. And even if you have basic knowledge of those skills, you are much more likely to get hired. That being said, there's no guarantees, obviously. So the co-op job program, basically what I did is I met with my advisor. His name is Hayden. He's very nice, very knowledgeable, also an engineer. And I asked him to look at my resume and a sample cover letter and basically go through and look at it in the eyes of a recruiter. And that's what they're there for. They'll look at it and they'll say, hey, I think this could be worded better, or what about this experience I know you have, and stuff like that. So it's more of like a conversation with someone who has been in your shoes, but has also been in the other side and the recruiting side. So they really know what the recruiters are looking for, which is really great. They also have mock interviews, which I did and personally found super helpful. They will ask you questions, the common interview questions like, why do you want to work here? Tell us about yourself. possibly some technical questions, since that did come up in my last interview job search. For my current job, I was asked mostly technical questions and not really behavioral. So I would say that utilize the advisors. They are there to help you. They want to help you and want to see you succeed and get a job placement. But also don't be afraid to talk with your friends and like interview each other and bounce resume ideas and stuff off each other too.
Thank you so much
Yeah.
for sharing that, McKenna. Aaron, I see there's a
Yeah.
few questions here about living in housing or dorms as well as transportation to campus. So, Sienna and McKenna, if either of you have lived in dorms, if you could share maybe your experience, as well as if you lived off campus about how what it's like to get to Okanagan. Aaron, I think Payush maybe lost connection. I don't see him on here right now, so we'll just talk
Mhm.
about the Okanagan campus for right now.
For sure.
Yeah, I lived on campus in my first year. I would say at the Okanagan campus, it's more typical for someone only to live on campus in their first year, as we do have relatively limited upper year housing options, especially compared to the Vancouver campus. My experience living on campus in first year was amazing. Obviously, first year is a very social year. Everyone's trying to make friends, and there's lots of different social events that are held by what we call residence advisors that live on each floor in each building. Specifically at UBC Okanagan, almost all the dorms are what we call a single room connected. And so you have your own personal dorm, like here with your own door. Then there's like a shared bathroom, and then there's one other person with their dorm. So you only have to share a bathroom with one person. And I would say the dorms are a lot more spacious than I was expecting, which was a pleasant surprise. And I'm not sure if this is the same across all the buildings. I lived in Purcell. They have their own like heating and air conditioning unit, which was really nice. Because I know at the McGill campus, at least, they don't have much air conditioning available in their
Mhm.
dorms. Um, so that was definitely a pro to living at UBC. In terms of living off campus, I started living off campus in my second year. I got a rental that was really reasonably priced, everything included, so I didn't have to worry about Wi-Fi or having to set up like heat or any of those sorts of utilities by myself. We have something called Academy Way, which is genuinely like 10 minutes away from campus, walking wise. And I lived there for 2 years in a two bed, two bath. Almost all the units are two bed, two bath, three bed, three bath. And so you tend to have your own private bathroom, which is really nice. And you're super close to campus. And it's quite affordable compared to a lot of rentals in different cities, I found. And we also have some place called Quail Ridge, where is where I'm living right now and where I'm calling in from. And it's around, I would say, a 20-minute walk from campus. And there's also a bus that comes as well. So living around and near campus in the Okanagan has been quite easy for me. And yeah, that's kind of been my experience.
Perfect.
I
Yes.
also lived on campus my first year, and once again, it was super fun. It's really great having all of your friends within walking, like 5 minutes walking distance from each other, which just makes a really fun environment. And obviously, you have the dining hall, and all your courses are right there, so it makes it really easy. I also lived on Academy Hill for a year, and it is actually fairly reasonably priced, especially compared to Vancouver. I lived alone, which was definitely a big adjustment, but it was also really accessible. It is a 10-minute walk or 15 minutes, maybe if you're like a little bit further down the hill. And it's really nice to just walk in the morning. It gets you going, get the fresh air, and it isn't that cold in Kelowna, so it really isn't that bad in the winter. Um, and then during my third year, I lived near downtown. And at that point, I did have a car, and it did make it fairly easy to get to campus. It was about a 20-minute drive, so a little bit further, still reasonably priced, but and there were still a fair amount of students living down there too. So like I would see my friends around and stuff, and we'd say hi to each other and whatnot. But I would say like overall, there's students spread out across Kelowna. So I wouldn't be too worried about finding a rental in Kelowna. It's not overly challenging, thankfully, and it's generally pretty reasonably priced, especially with roommates, which is what I found during my third year living with roommates. Um, but yeah, overall, it's pretty good. And there is a bus system. There's a bus up academy now that runs pretty regularly, and there's buses, multiple buses downtown. So you should not be stranded in Kelowna, thankfully.
Yeah, I
Um, oh,
can quickly talk about Van. Sorry, I got cut off the last time my phone died, which I was using for Wi-Fi. But so UBC Vancouver is actually a transit hub. So there's actually an entire bus loop there, which kind of connects to most of Vancouver, Burnaby, and Richmond, and some lines even all the way to Surrey. So it is super, super accessible. But beyond that, Point Grey, which is the neighborhood right next to the UBC area, has a bunch of like Rogers and Telus bicycles. And there are rumors that we might be getting Lime scooters soon. So there's really no need for a car, and it's super, super accessible here. And in terms of housing, there's typically a lot of houses, both on campus but also off campus, accessible through transit, specifically in the Point Grey and Kitsilano area. So commutes about 10 to 15 minutes if you could find some housing in that area. Yeah, and rent's not too bad if you could get some roommates.
Perfect. So we are just out of time now. There's a couple questions that did keep popping up that I do want to ask kind of as our closing question before I wrap up. There are a bunch of questions I will mention about kind of admissions and the application and stuff like that. Marie and I will stay on for about 15 minutes or so to answer any of those questions. So if you have those questions, stick around for a little bit longer. We're going to finish the wrap up of this session, but then we'll stick on to answer those. As the last question for our panelists, there's been a lot of questions about um, how did you choose your program that you're in, and kind of what did that look like for you? So maybe let's try and keep it really short, like maybe 30 seconds or so. What really stood out to you about the program that you chose? To kind of wrap up the session, I'm going to share a few more slides, and then, like I said, Marie and I will stick around to answer some of those admission questions that folks have. So, yeah, focusing on kind of how did you choose your program? What stood out to you? What do you love about your program? Maybe any of those sort of things in like maybe 30 to 60 seconds, we'll go through. Is anyone ready to start?
Yeah, I could go first.
Okay, Piyush, go ahead.
Yeah, so roughly halfway through my first year, I realized I really liked working in multidisciplinary problems. So not just physics or not just the circuits, kind of combining everything, and really throwing biology in there really messes up some of the traditional applications of engineering that we have. Biology is very messy, and that was a problem I wanted to tackle. So that's kind of how I picked the biomedical engineering program. It was a very new program when I joined, when I specialized in it, but it's got very young faculty and they're all doing some really crazy research, which is what really made me pick that. And it's also a pathway for medical school because it meets all the prerequisite classes. So that was another plus.
Awesome. McKenna, maybe you can go next.
I chose electrical because I personally enjoyed it the most. I basically was like, what can I take that won't take dynamics? And I also really enjoyed control systems and distribution design, which is a large part of electrical. I will say one of the big pros about electrical is there are so many jobs in so many different industries. You can do biomedical, you can do distribution, you can do controls, you can do like chips, like in your computers and phones, you can do software engineering. We really do dabble in a little bit of everything. And it's not really geographically related as well. Like my first co-op, I almost moved to Alaska, so you really can do a lot with it. You can really explore different areas and have different working environments from in the lab to being on site to being in an office. So I would highly recommend exploring electrical and seeing what you're passionate about. And I wish you all the best of luck in your applications.
And Sienna.
Yeah, my approach to choosing what I was going to study was came mostly from high school. I would say a lot of people decide what they want to study in that foundational first year, where you kind of get to try out all the different fields. But in high school, I tore my ACL and my MCL and my knee, and got to interact with a lot of different medical devices and was really interested in the way that they worked, specifically on the mechanical side, which is why I'm majoring in mechanical engineering. And then from there, biomed was just kind of a natural transition because I just continued to be super interested. And every time a professor would be like, biomedical application, as like an example, I'd be like, eyes wide open, super engaged. I was like, yeah, I should do that concentration. So I kind of knew from the start, but that's definitely not the case for, I'd say, like 80% of students. So that foundational first year is a really great opportunity to try everything out.
Perfect. So I'm just going to share my screen one last time for everyone. Uh, so there's a few ways for you all to stay connected with us as maybe you finish your application or maybe you apply in the future. So I just want to show you all a few more ways to stay connected. One of the things that I didn't even mention yet is that all of our students here today are part of our UBC Engineering Ambassador Program. And so you can actually go online and start a chat with them and ask them more questions after today. You can ask them about their student experience. They won't be able to help you with anything like admissions related, but they can help with answering questions about programs, about student experience, about teams, clubs, any of that sort of stuff. So feel free to log on to our site. I will reshare that resource. So we do have a bunch of resources in that resource tab at the bottom, which is like a bunch of pages stacked on top of each other. And let me just reshare that. So it should pop up in your bottom of your screen right now, the chat with a student feature. You can connect with any of our ambassadors there. We also have more events coming up. So if you are applying to UBC or if you have already applied to UBC Engineering at the Vancouver or Okanagan campus, you will be getting invite to applicant specific events. But we also have some other events. So if you're a prospective student, maybe applying in the future or an applicant, we do have a co-op session coming up in February. And then those applicant events there I mentioned, you will get an invite specifically if you have applied. And so you can just follow the link in those invites to join us for any of those events coming up. As I mentioned, this presentation has been recorded and we will share that recording with you within a few days once I get it uploaded to YouTube. And of course, if you want to reach out to us at any point in time, you can email outreach@apsc.ubc.ca or engineering.okanagan@ubc.ca. So thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks so much, Marie, for sticking around for a little longer with me to answer these questions, but we hope that you got a lot of your questions answered, that you're feeling better about maybe applying if you haven't submitted that application yet. And hopefully we'll see many of you on campus throughout the spring and maybe in the fall. So thank you, everyone. Have a great evening or day or morning, wherever it is that you're joining us from. We're so glad that you were able to join us today, and we hope to see you soon.
Thanks, Erin. Thank you all.